page for a second while he does a countdown.
We're live.
We are live.
We are.
I wasn't expecting.
Well, hello, everyone. Welcome to the Ask Me Anything with, in this case, Scott Jernigan and Dave Rush.
Greetings.
So we're filling in for Mike Meyers today, who is in the Bonneville.
We got an echo. I'll fix it in a second. Something funky about my.
Standing by.
Okay, I'm solved.
Okay, all right, cool. Filling in for Mike Meyers, who is in the Bonneville Flats in Utah today. He sent me a picture of him basically standing out in the middle of flat nothingness. It's amazing that places like that exist on the planet. Anyway, he is completely out of any kind of Wi-Fi range. So yeah, no Mike today, but hopefully he'll be here on Wednesday. He should be in Colorado by then. So
excellent.
Much more possible that he will get online. In the meantime, welcome.
We'll be watching for red eye. Sorry.
So I'm Scott Jernigan. I'm editor-in-chief for Total Seminars. I've been writing, teaching, and editing for a couple of decades now in IT. I'm an author in my own right and star of a couple of video series on IT certifications. I work closely with Mike Meyers and have on all of his books since the first edition of the A+ book, and certainly all of the more recent ones too. Dave?
I'm Dave Rush. I'm the senior instructor at Total Seminars. I work directly for Scott, and occasionally I don't think you really have any bosses per se, but whenever Mike or his partner Dudley come up with an unusual project, if it's not up Michael Smyer's alley, who's working the back scenes right now, I'll pick that kind of thing up. I got a really fun one going on that will be interesting, hopefully, to everybody watching or will be watching in the future. And we are creating an index of every one of these AMAs that we've ever done. So if you want to go through and find out where Mike talks about job hunting in security IT fields, you'll be able to find it in that index. And when I'm not doing that, there's a million other projects, and I get to fill in every now and again with Scott on these, and we do our other one on Fridays with Raspberry Pis.
Awesome. So the purpose of these AMAs, as those of you who have been here before know, is to make a space where those of you who are studying for CompTIA certifications or just want to talk shop with other people of like mind can come when we're all locked down in our houses in the midst of this pandemic. So the AMAs cover mainly CompTIA certifications such as IT Fundamentals Plus, A+, Network Plus, Security Plus. Those are our specialties. We can also venture into some of the higher end CompTIA certifications, and certainly you can ask us anything. That's the whole point, right? And we'll answer if we can, try to keep the politics and religion out of it. But other than that, anything's fair game. Oh, just because you're here.
Coming up.
Yep. This week's special at TotalSim.com is an awesome one. I'm posting it in the live chat. Dave is putting it up there. So the special deals for the week are 50% off all of the A+ and Network Plus super bundles. That's the video series, the Total Tester Practice Test, and the Total Sim simulations. So that's the big deal on the super bundles, and 50% off the Security Plus video and Total Tester bundle. Because yes, I have Security Plus, but that's my main project right now. So I'm working on them. Anyway, just use the code MMLive824 at checkout. It's good through the 30th of August. Also, if you're a teacher actively teaching one of the CompTIA certifications, contact Kathy Yale, Kathy Y at, my screen just went completely blank.
All right, TotalSim.com.
Kathy Y at TotalSim.com. And she'll hook you up. She's got some incredible deals for teachers. In fact, lots of free stuff. So give her a shout. It's so disconcerting. The Zoom went completely dark on me.
Are you back now?
Nope.
Okay, I put up the contact information. So in addition to posting questions today on the chat feed, if you want to get in touch with us for a longer question, a more in-depth question, whatever you want to talk to us about, you can drop Mike an email. He's still checking emails and answering them when he's in hotels at night where he can get a decent connection. Catch him at michaelm@totalsem.com. You can catch me, Dave R. at totalsem.com, or Scott. There's a pattern here. Check this out. Scott Jernigan, Scott J at totalsem.com. You find us all gaming. We're Steam gamers predominantly, like most folks. So Mike is Senior Pepe. I'm Blood Rush TX, and Scott is Scarheart, no E anywhere. And there's a phone number. You can see it posted on here. I'm not going to read it to you. If you want to get in touch with us to communicate with us personally, nobody's at the office to answer that number, but it's forwarded to our other people who answer the phone. It's not an answering service. It's our folks, and they kind of take turns. I'll take the calls today. You take the calls tomorrow, and leave a message for them, and they will operate as kind of a gateway and let us know or let you know if they're going to get in touch with us personally, or if an email is a better choice. You get the idea. All right, I'm back. Are you back?
I am back.
Hey.
For some reason, screen sharing, my laptop does not like it when you screen share.
Okay.
So there you go. I wonder if I do that and not have it full screen, that it will not do that. Okay, all right, sorry. Disconcerting when your entire screen goes blank and you know you're still live. Like, oh, yeah, that's exciting. So let's check in. Oh, so the key here, right, is to ask us questions. We'll run until 4 o'clock Central Daylight Savings Time, or we'll stop when the questions run out. Dave has a couple of things we talked about covering in a presentation of sorts a little bit later on in this afternoon's session. So we'll do that too.
And we won't do that unless we run out of questions. If you're going to keep feeding us questions, we want to answer your questions. But if it's a little bit slow, we can kind of let questions pile up. And we started a presentation on one of these a little while back that started with, where do Ethernet MAC addresses come from? And I have a kind of a 4 or 5 part series of small chunks that builds on that. Now we've got a MAC address. How does Ethernet use MAC addresses, and so forth and so forth. So when those opportunities present themselves, we'll fill in with a little bit more information and just let that thing grow sort of organically over time.
So a couple of you are asking if you can ask questions. Just go ahead and ask. If we accidentally skip your question, ask it again. The scrolling on the YouTube live thing is crazy. It goes by so fast. Before we go through all of the, oh, Edward too. Okay, before we go through everything, there are a couple of congratulations in order. Edward Fobel passed Security Plus this morning, which is awesome.
Congratulations, Edward. Big round of applause.
Taylor Brook passed A+ on Saturday. So another.
Nice. Welcome to the fold, Taylor. And
No,
you've been a regular visitor, so congratulations to both you guys. Did you study together? I'm kidding. Well, I'm looking through questions. I'm looking at starting at 2 o'clock. Do some greetings, everybody. Hi there, Alan. Tullywood, of course, here first, and Andre, very close second. Hi, Andre. There's Brandon and Alan. And greeting. I love your whole name. I'm just doing it. Hello, Marvin Jesus Joaquin Peralta. Joaquin. That's got to be it. And
I think I would probably say Brendan rather than Brandon.
You know, there's an E, not an A, isn't there?
And yeah, so the flats, the Bonneville Flats, are very much like the Flatlands in Classic WoW. So yeah, good reference.
I've never been there, so I'm really looking forward to seeing Mike's pics when he comes back.
You just install the game, Dave. It's easy.
Foolish me. Bernie Schroff, welcome. That's a new name for me. Glad to have you here.
Hey, Bernie. Okay. Greg Davis, of course. Alice Potsy.
Alice is here. Alice, I missed you in our pie shindig last Friday. I was actually looking forward to you being there because we did installing a media server, and I thought you had some interest in that. So go check the archive. It's really good. And at the risk of plugging a little bit, this week we're going to expand on that. On this Friday, we're going to install a Plex server. It's kind of a media server or a back-end server for another media server. So that'll be a cool thing.
Which should be very, very fun. I'm totally looking forward to Friday. And yes, Bernie, ask me a question. Ask me anything. Tulowit, so mean.
Yeah. Nobody has to ask if they're allowed to ask. That's the whole point of this chat thread. Fire a question out. With both of us online, we usually catch each other's misses. Scott never misses anything. He catches mine.
I was saying so mean Tulowit because he was punking Greg Davis, who said he missed on Friday.
I see that. Yeah, no, we gave away what, like 9 pies?
Yeah, no, it was awesome. Raspberry, rhubarb, apple.
And I saved my marriage because I saved some room upstairs dumping them off. I had to look at that sometime. Yeah, I've had a little bit of drop off in presentation. Maybe if I did a Mike giveaway and here's a pie. Don't give it.
Not a bad idea.
No, I see my wheels turning.
That's right. That's right. Now, who else? What else is going on here?
You see Huts. I just my scroller did its thing.
Yeah. So at 207, then we have Brandon. So we have a Brendan and a Brandon.
There we go. So it'll be important that I use the correct name.
I was actually read about the Zoom outage this morning, and of course got nervous. Logged in early this morning and checked my Zoom. And I'm like, okay, everything's solid. Life is good. Got just about ready to set up the show, and Zoom had an update. And I'm like, oh no, nothing bad's gonna happen here. A Zoom update right before we go live. But aside from the blackout thing that just happened, there you go.
Okay, here's our first meaty question of the day at 2:08. Harold Rivas says, I earned my A+, Net Plus, and Sec Plus this summer. You did that all in one summer.
That's awesome.
That's way to go, man. Impressive. So now, should I go for CYSA before the 001 version retires? The answer to that is easy. Always before fill in the blank class or exam retires, get that old one done. It's a known quantity. The study materials are readily available. And once you're certified for whatever that time period exists. So if they come out, if you take it on the last day before it retires, and let's say it's a 3-year certification, like most CompTIA certs are, tomorrow 002 comes out, big deal. You're certified CYSA for the next 3 years, even if 003 comes out or 004 by then. So yeah, whenever possible, get the oldest one out of the way, because that's what it says on your resume and on your certificate. You passed CYSA plus, not CYSA plus and the number behind it.
Yep, very good.
Can I have the Zoom link for this? Asked Bernie at 2:08. No. Sorry. It's a spectator sport for everybody except Scott and I. But we have talked about that. Someday either one of you guys hosting one and getting everybody here involved. If you want to do something like that, and do it when Mike's back, because he said he would make an appearance as a guest or even just a chatter. But yeah, you guys do that, and we can help you coordinate. We can post. We'll let you post the links and things like that up here. But no. But I love the question. Kudos to you.
That's right. Hey, you can't get an answer if you don't ask.
Hey, that's right. Exactly what I was going to say.
So Falak is here. Daniel James.
Everybody's congratulating him on that. And they're all going, why didn't we ever ask that?
Well,
very welcome, Edward, at 2:09, that we've helped you with any of those. So glad to have helped. And
yeah, absolutely. Glad to have helped.
Yeah,
I mean, that's what we do,
Yep.
This is our reason for working and breathing and living the Total Seminars dream, and that is to provide the best training materials we can to help you guys and gals improve your skills, pass your certifications, get a better job, and just enjoy the tech. I mean, we are all geeks, and we just happen to also write and do videos. So there you go.
Yeah. You current on NIPS and NIDS? 209, Falak.
Go for it.
So Falak, our friend, says NIDS and NIPS, learning baseline flow of traffic. What does it mean? So for everybody who's not up into Sec Plus and Net Plus, where we talk about NIPS and NIDS, network intrusion detection and network intrusion prevention systems. So these are systems that a NIDS, a detection system, says I've detected some kind of intrusion on the network, an invalid user, an invalid MAC address, whatever the case that is, and it generates an alert to someone, an administrator, and it's then up to the administrator to research further and take any action. NIPS is proactive in taking action. It's the same thing as NIDS, but when it detects something, it takes some kind of action. It cuts off the router that the intrusion is coming through. It sets a firewall setting to prevent the intruder, but allow the rest of activity. And there's a number of different possible responses. So there are really simple NIDS and NIPS that just have simple baseline rules that you either select or approve or write or whatever. And then there are boxes that have built-in intelligence, call it artificial intelligence, where their job is to watch the network all day and learn the norms, learn who's normally on, learn when they're normally on, and things like that. And that's called building a baseline. And so now it's not just doing prevention or detection based on cold rules, what we might call in a firewall a stateless situation. These are now stateful. They say, oh, this thing is, Fred is on at 2 o'clock in the morning and he's never on there. Especially because I've been watching it for a year and a half, and I've never seen Fred do anything like this. I'm going to block him, or I'm going to detect it and alert my administrator. So that's the basics on it.
Thank you. Great answer.
Taylor, your questions were never weirdo. Always thoughtful.
Yep. Good questions. Very good questions.
Oh, Marv. I'll try to call you Marv, but I just like your whole name.
It's fun to have 4 names. I mean, it's like not many people get that.
Exactly.
Most of us are stuck with 3 or even 2. I guess I could just add more names.
If you'll convert to Catholicism, we'll give you a confirmation name. That'll get you 4.
There we go. I could do that.
I got an uncle recently passed who's he screwed up when he picked up his confirmation name. He wanted Francis of Assisi, but he picked Francis Xavier and just went by the Xavier. And his name was Walter Francis Xavier Angeli. Yes, and we mentioned this, Alice. So we got Angeli in my background. And he always loved it because there was a radio station at the time somewhere on the east of the Mississippi that was WFXA.
He had his own radio station. That's
exactly.
Cool. Very fun. Man, Harold. So at 2:10, he posted, somebody asked him earlier if he did it all in one summer. And he's like, Security Plus in June. Wait a minute. You did Security Plus first?
Of course he did.
That's awesome.
Yeah, another round, man. Way to go.
Oh, that's great. And Edward got 5 performance-based questions on his Security Plus exam.
And that seems dead normal. We always say between 3 and 5 or 3 and 7, and the unusual exception 1 and 9. But yeah, that's right smack dab in the middle. Good for you. Hi, Debbie Strach at 2:14. If you're wondering where we're getting these times, by the way, there's a toggle on the chat on the 3-bar menu up on top that says you can toggle timestamps so you can figure out where we're chasing things down.
And you,
sorry, I interrupted myself. Debbie Strock. Hi, guys. Just started my Python and CCNA3 class, right? You said you were going to do that. CCNA3, okay. And guess what? CCNA4 is now merged with CCNN3. I hadn't heard that was coming, but given the quantity of changes that they did in February, can't say I'm surprised.
So at 210, Daniel James asks,
Ooh, I went back.
I have 0 Raspberry Pi, which means I guess that he doesn't have a Raspberry Pi Zero, but that he doesn't have any Raspberry Pi. That's what I'm guessing. I see a bunch of them sold as a bundle or group. Any recommendations on what to buy? I want to do it right if I need to buy other things with it.
Man, I can't believe we missed that, especially me. Okay, Daniel, there's a short answer and a long answer to that. What I want you to do is to go back to the first Pi episode that we did, which was 4 weeks ago on Friday. I think it was on, I don't know, August 1st, August 8th, somewhere then about. And there's a very long answer for that. So I show you the minimum hardware that you can get away with based on your experience and the maximum hardware that you can get away with. So I'll give you the short version right now. If you're a little bit of a tech weenie, a power supply, a case, pick your favorite Pi model from the specs. A Raspberry Pi 3 Plus is very good for anybody right now. They're $25, and the current two models, or 2 of the 3 models of Raspberry Pi 4 are $35. So power supply, case, the board, and an SD card, a micro SD card, so you can get the operating system on it. You will need, for most parts, a monitor, a keyboard, and a mouse. And you probably already have those. You can simply disconnect those from your existing computer right now, plug them in there to get everything set up. And then I walked you through the setup in that first presentation on how you no longer will need them. You can access the thing remotely. Now, if you're not a tech weenie yet, you're not really diving deep into this kind of stuff, buy a kit. I was just online on Amazon today looking at kits. There's a CANA kit, CANAKIT, on Amazon for $89 that has everything you need except a monitor and a keyboard. You're kind of expected to have those things, I guess a mouse too, but all the other accessories and the gobbledygook and the instruction manual that isn't nearly as good as anything that I've ever presented. But yeah, look, $90, you're in, and that's for a Raspberry Pi 4 with 2 gigs of RAM. So that's pretty darn good. Cough up another $10, you get the 4 gig model, but you don't need it. I've never run across anybody who's actually needed 4 gigs, but you know, got to have it. But you can save a little bit of money if you want to try and build your own kit and just get away with the 4 minimum components. You can probably do that for under $60. But
So right
another $30, you get everything.
At the end of the chat, as you were saying, the kit, both Deepak and Greg Davis said they that's exactly what they got.
Very good.
Yeah, very good. So at 211, as kind of a little follow-up question, 210, Brandon says, Plex server to share all my Big Bang Theory episodes. Yes.
Yeah, it's going to be cool. And Brandon is our guy who is already familiar with Plex, so looking forward to his input and feedback on that day.
Yep. So 211, Andrew Hutz asks, do you guys have some interesting Linux distros that would be worth looking into? I use Kali, and Ubuntu, and have played around with Mint. Your experience is almost precisely what mine is.
Yeah, I mean, you know, that serves the needs of most everybody who starts to play in these arenas. And I'll add Raspbian or Raspberry Pi OS, formerly Raspbian, which is just a Debian distro that it's probably 95% identical with some customization to work on the Pi. So yeah, there's a lot of other cool distros out there. There's Arch, and there's CentOS, and OpenELEC, and OSMC, and they're interesting, but they're very nichey, and we don't dive too much into the niches here. I did talk about 2 of those on last Friday's Pi Drama. Can't even remember our own name.
Friday was the Drama plus S.
There you go, dramas. But no, I'm with Scott. You know, I'm most of my machines that have Linux distros on them, it's Ubuntu. I too have played with Mint. And if I wanted to play with Windows, which is what Mint looks and acts like, I'd get Windows. So.
Right. And Brandon had a good suggestion that followed up. Try Distro Watch, which has a collection of a bunch of different distributions. So Could be very good. Jean Dorival is here. Welcome.
Oh, there it is. Look up DistroWatch. Okay. Heck, I'm writing down look up DistroWatch.
Right. And 211 Frank Q has a question. Where can I find, and welcome Frank Q, by the way, where can I find an ISO of Win 7/8.1 to install in Hyper-V? I assume you mean to work on your A+ certification. That's what I would guess. Otherwise, going back to Windows 7 or back to Windows 8.1, heaven help you, would be a step in an interesting direction, unless you were trying to do some kind of support for software specifically written for one of those older operating systems. The answer is eBay, is what I would guess. Maybe you can find a copy of Windows 7 still in the box. Should go for pretty cheap. But I don't know where to find a legal copy of an ISO for any Microsoft operating system that isn't directly from Microsoft as an eval copy.
Okay. Well, Win 7, because it's no longer supported, there are no ISOs available at the Microsoft site. There are ISOs for 8X. It's still supported.
Oh,
you
okay.
can download one and get the usual 30-day trial before the product key expires. And of course,
Cool.
there are Win 10 distros that'll run fine in Hyper-V. But yeah, there's lots of third-party folks who have old copies. They're going to have it on the old CD-ROM. And there's the trick, of course. If you do get that, you got to get Service Pack 2, because there's no updates for any of that stuff that's going to come from Microsoft.
Right.
Why is there poor IT methods in the videos with Mike?
Yeah, he's Bernie Schroth asked this a couple of times, and when he was questioned about it, he said, "Watch the videos." You'll have to give me more, slightly more description. What's
the source of the videos? Is that Udemy? Is it ones that have been purchased from Total Seminars?
Yeah, I don't know.
Is it Guild AMAs? Yeah, give us a little more info, Bernie.
Oh, that's funny. So at 218, Marv is correcting us here that he only has two names.
Yeah, I got that. Marvin. I'll try and remember.
Marvin.
Marv and Marvin.
No, Marvin Jesus. That's his first and middle name.
Okay.
And his last name is a double name.
Got it.
So interesting.
Okay. Not laughing at you. I'm just laughing at my own stupidity. I often do that.
So tell us, okay, so at 221, Telewith finally points out the 800-pound elephant in the room. Tell us about those little lights above your head there, Dave.
I hope people who've been with us for a long time and for those opportunities that I've gotten to fill in for Mike recognize that I just like to have some kind of wacky background. And I'm running out of Speed Racer stuff, and I do concert shirts on Pi Day Friday. So I was looking around. I got a little video studio upstairs, and I was looking around for something cool. When Mike was shooting some of the stuff in our studio back in the office last year, I used to bring in some kind of different Easter egg light or something for the bookshelves, and we do them for a few episodes and then pull them and change out the Easter egg. Well, we knew for a couple of weeks that Mike was going to do a fiber optic, lecture presentation. And, you hold up a piece of fiber optic cable with its orange clad or its blue clad, and there's just nothing cool, pretty, or interesting about that other than it's a piece of orange cable. So I went on eBay, and for a couple of bucks, I think $3, I bought a pair of these fiber optic little lampy things. They got a couple hundred little fiber optic hairs in them, and there's a little color changing LED in the base of the thing, and it's battery powered. And I thought, that'd be kind of a cool thing to hang for today's wacky thing behind Dave. That's all there is to it.
Okay. Thank you for that
It's a
explanation.
longer story than it was worth.
Inquiring minds.
That's right.
Where are we?
I'm waiting for Tullowit to put a fiber optic lamp pun now. No, that wasn't encouragement, Tullowit.
Yes, it was. Yes, it was.
Yeah, right. Transplant. I saw that you got the one on your MX points. That's great. Just delivered. Super. And as I mentioned, I saw your link. I wanted to point out something about your link to everybody. If you're going to play in, any arena, Windows, car fixing, Raspberry Pis, great site out there called hackaday.com. They got projects and nifty hacks and all kinds of goodies. Transplant sent me a link with some that have some Pi specific stuff. And I've been there before. I've used some of their things, but check it out. It's a really good site.
What was the site again?
Hackaday, Hackaday.
Hackaday. Okay, cool. Thanks. What else we got?
Yeah, as you said, so Greg's got a 4 gig from Canakit. Daniel James likes the suggestion. Amazon, absolutely. And Brandon reminds us, DistroWatch.
At 228.
Yeah, when you answer a long question, I'm going to go look up DistroWatch.
Okay. So Jean Dorival asks, done the A+ and am working on Net+. Do you guys have any tips for getting better and retaining all that I've learned so far? Not working at the moment, so I want to keep practicing and educating myself. That is a fine, fine sentiment. So let's talk about that. I assume you mean keeping current on your A+ skills while you're working on Network+. And because you're not working, you don't have any opportunity to put those skills into use at the office. One thing you could do would be to, so tough in the pandemic season, but depending on how difficult it is in your area, you could do volunteer work, community centers, libraries, not-for-profit places. They have plenty of opportunities to help work on their network, help build their systems for people, doing troubleshooting and that sort of thing. You could send out feelers. This is dangerous. You could send out feelers asking your friends and family if they're having computer problems that are kind of A+y, that they run them by you so that you can troubleshoot with them or for them and maybe fix their machines. So that's another way. Getting other computers that you can get from other people that are quote unquote broken and trying to make them work. It's another way to just sort of keep going with the A+ skill set while you're working on Network+. I tend to like building machines and I like troubleshooting. And so sometimes I have a machine that's been sitting in somebody's closet for a year because it's broken. And you're like, I'll take it out of your closet, and then you get to sit there and troubleshoot, figure it out, work on it, cannibalize the computers, build them into Linux boxes, make a Kodi media center out of them, like we talked about, Dave talked about on Friday. So plenty of things to do, even with secondhand material that can keep your skills current and provide for some interesting projects as well. Anything to add, Dave?
I think you nailed it. He's working on Net+, so you don't need much equipment to do Net+ labs, but the more labs you can get your hands on and make, the better. So again, Scott's advice: get a machine, see if you can get one working, and you've already got a machine, and get them hooked up. You got switch ports that are probably in the back of your Soho router at the house. And that opens up worlds of opportunities. You've got a Windows machine, you can make a web server on there, you can install Wireshark and practice those skills between machines. But yeah, it's all pretty much the same thing Scott said.
So at 229, Laura Morgan
has
a question. Unfortunately, I failed A+ 1002 twice after copious amounts of study with various sources. Any tips to avoid a third failure? I'm a keen beginner. The fact that you're going for round 3.
She's really close.
Yeah, she's very close.
Missed that first one by 20 points.
Yep.
Yeah, go ahead.
So you said copious amounts of study with various sources. I would pound practice questions at this point. If you've read the stuff, if you watched videos from Mike and maybe Professor Messer or Jason Dion, I mean, there's plenty of great people out there. Sometimes it takes having something taught by somebody else that you hadn't learned from to begin with that may help a particular subject stick in your head. The practice tests, not just the total tester from us, but practice tests from other sources as well. The incorrect answers are often as important as the correct answers, especially with the explanations. So don't just go and guess the question or go and say that's the answer. And if you get it wrong, look it up, right? Even if you know the answer to the question, looking at the explanations for the wrong answers often gives you, especially in our case, will give you information on what we know if you're going to be tested on by CompTIA. We know what's on the exam. Flat out, we know it because we've all taken it and we're smart, and we, immediately after we finish taking it, write down everything we can remember. And after you take something that many times, okay, we know what's on the exam. But by rule, by the non-disclosure agreement that we sign with CompTIA when we take the exams, we can't tell you what the precise questions are. And so we write our questions to cover the same materials, the same subject as the CompTIA questions, but then we write it differently so that there's a different answer is correct, the way our questions are worded. But then in the explanations, we give you the information you need, regardless of how that question is asked, to be able to get it right. So that's my advice.
I got nothing to add.
Okay.
I like the idea of getting information from different perspectives. And yeah, you're so close. A good practice test or set of them will probably put you over that edge. And then there's always the other thing. Hopefully you kept the PDF report of one or both of those fails, and maybe you can look through those at the objectives and find some commonality. Man, I always miss objective 2.1, or I always miss objective 3.6, and that'll give you something particular to study on in whoever study materials you've been using. Tullowit and transplant, you two are getting racy. Stop it. At 229.
Yeah, I see it. I see it.
Everybody's running back. What did they say?
And he's not wrong. It's not wrong at all. So at 2:30, Imhahi Ray asks, how many questions on the CompTIA A+? So that can be answered two different ways. The 1001, 1002, the official exams have 90 questions, up to 90 questions, including between 3 and 7 performance-based questions. So you might get, if you had, say, 5 performance-based questions, you might get only 80 multiple choice questions, for example. And that's for both 1001 and 1002. If, on the other hand, you're asking how many questions are in our practice test bank, well over 1,200 at the current writing. And we are continually adding more as we get more information, more people come through the system. They've taken the exam. They're like, oh, CompTIA refreshed things. So there's a bunch of new questions in the CompTIA A+ pool. So we then do our research, write new questions. So we're constantly updating our database as well. So currently the total tester A+ has over 1,200 questions in the test bank.
And I see lots of people offering advice to Laura about alternative sources of practice tests and study materials. So. 231, greetings, Simon Edling. Good to see you again, sir. No, Dave is not better than Scott. Sorry. No. We're very different in the way we do things.
Yeah, we are. And it's fun because we complement rather than clash. Well, personally we clash all the time because we are. If I say paper, he says plastic. And I say sky, he says earth. So, and we won't even talk about. We actually finally had to swear off political discussions because it got too much. So
yeah, we got a little heated, but it was fun, and it's still fun.
Yep.
Okay, Telewit and Laura. At 2:34, Mahi Ray also says, why Mike didn't talk about performance-based questions and example in his course videos. So that's a toughie. Here's why he doesn't talk about them, because he does them in the videos. So now we can't get every one of them because they change from time to time. They add some, they subtract some. But let's say, for instance, in a Security Plus video, I know that in Sec Plus, the exam, there is a very complicated question, at least it's a complicated looking performance-based question about firewalls. There's all kinds of pictures of computers and firewalls and IP addresses and restrictions, and you got to click it and drag it and do all kinds of really involved things to that. Mike, first of all, we can't, I've gotten as close to the edge just by talking about that as I can without violating the non-disclosure agreement. And Mike does the same things in his videos. He won't do anything that reveals a specific CompTIA question of any type. But he knows and has seen that particular performance-based question in taking the exam sometime in his past. And so he will set up a similar demonstration included in one of the lectures. So if you're watching his lectures, you're going to see many, certainly not all, but many of the PBQs enacted in real life. And there are PBQs out there that require you to use actual Microsoft utilities and do particular things with them. For instance, here's a safe one, everybody knows this. There is a performance-based question where you have to configure your network interface card for a static IP address, and it has to have this address, and it has to have that DNS server. Mike demonstrates that. We have it in our practice sims on how to do it. So now he doesn't discuss them, he shows them, he does them. And that's why, but he doesn't want to get up to the line and says, by the way, the thing we're about to do right now is something that you're going to see on the exam, because that would get us into hot water. So I hope that answers your question.
Very good. Taylor, lots of people helping.
Yeah,
out.
everybody's really helping her out.
It's nice.
At 2:35, Falak asks, I get confused between XSS, cross-site scripting, and CSRF. I don't remember what it stands for. You're probably more current on that than I am.
Cross-site request forgery.
There you go. So we'll finish the question. You can take it. If malicious script is stored in database, then how does it affect other users or clients?
That's the part of his question. I was actually, while you were answering the last one, I was reading that question, trying to understand how to answer it. I mean, the basic difference between cross-site scripting attacks and cross-site request forgery is who's doing the trust, right? So in XSS, that hacker is taking advantage of the trust the user has for a certain website. Okay, and the reverse of that, CSRF, the hacker takes advantage of the trust that a website has for a specific browser. So that's, I mean, I understand the details or the concepts of them. The mechanics of them, I'm not clear enough on that I can answer that better. Sorry, Falak.
All right, I'm going to take that as a research project, and whoever's here on Wednesday, we'll see if we can get you a fuller answer.
Okay. And you're writing that down?
I am.
Thank you so much. Okay, so continuing on here.
Yeah. Thomas Robinson checked in at 2:38. Greetings, Thomas. Nice to see you again, sir. Oh, good. Laura at 2:38 says she has the PDF report. I'm going to read this one. I suck at multiple choice. I've never heard anybody say that. I'm great at the performance based, but the multiple guess I have trouble with. I've practiced and not memorized. That's good. I really think it's a mindset on the exam. Right. Okay. So if you take what Mike says about number 1 and number 2 reasons to do poorly on an exam, he says number 1 is test freeze, test anxiety. And it sounds that might be a little bit what you're saying here. You obviously got, I presume you got past 10:01 and you're just slugging it up for 10:02. So for that, your only hope is Zen meditation and yoga.
Don't
Or
knock it.
or a good stiff belt before the exam. Now, the way to get rid of anxiety, think of the things that you do every day that you're not anxious about, and think about why you're not anxious about them. Do you cook for the family? The first time you did it, was it kind of heart palpitations? I hope it's good. I hope they like it. I hope I didn't burn it. But then you did some more and you practice more and you get better at it, and you're no longer anxious. It just becomes part of your day-to-day material. And so the same kind of thing happens when you're studying for any kind of a test. If you're studying for a test and it's all brand spanking and you haven't got your hands on it, and the only thing that you've got going for you is memorization, you don't have the confidence about understanding the whole concept and how it works in the grand scheme of the world, that's going to introduce anxiety. And the way around that is to not just memorize the stuff, not just watch Mike, not just read it, but to get your hands on the stuff. Use the utilities, experiment with them, dig with them. And the same thing for everything else you learn. Don't just learn what Mike has to say or some book has to say. Go and do additional research on it. Find additional depth. Study it over and over until it makes a little more sense each time. So that's the test anxiety, and there's probably a million other recommendations out there on how to get over test anxiety. That's my understanding and how I deal with it. And then the number 2, this is just for everybody in general, just kind of a reminder of Mike's take on it, is overthinking. The more you know about a topic, it's really easy to read into the questions and the problems and the concepts, and to start answering in-depth questions that they're not asking, or adding your own conditions to the test questions that they didn't put there. So you got to learn to take every question at face value. Don't add anything to it. Don't subtract anything to it. Here's what they want to know. And now find the best answer that most simply provides an answer to exactly and only what that question is looking for.
And then, of course, the classic multiple choice thing. And once, if you've studied, and it sounds like you've studied and you're ready, don't second guess yourself. So when you, this is the classic, people go back and make changes. Once you've gone through, read the question, read the answers, you're clear on the question, clear on the answers, and you're like, okay, that seems like the best answer. Although I'm not sure, right? That's okay. Make that your answer and don't look back.
Right. Usually the first answer that comes to your mind is the rightest one.
Yep. So Jean at 239 says, thanks a lot. I just installed a virtual machine to get some practice in. Perfect. Very good. And a little side hustle, fixing and troubleshooting devices to get some practice and make a little cash.
Outstanding. Well done, Jean Dorval. Way to go, buddy.
John Lehman just checked in, 239. Hey, John.
Hey, John.
Welcome. People plugging our stuff, which is cool.
Wouldn't have it any other way.
Right.
Well, checks are in the mail.
Yeah, the
Okay, so John Lehman's got an interview at 2:41. Got an interview today after taking a 50-question Network Plus test on Sunday. I want to thank you guys at Total Seminars because it was your Network Plus course that got me here. Well, good luck on the interview, buddy.
Yeah, good luck, John. That's exciting.
Shave if you shave, wear deodorant, wash your hands, trim your nails, speak in complete sentences.
Eye contact is
to
important.
your interviewer. Actually laugh.
Eye contact is important. So all these things are good.
Not too many holes. You're very welcome, Mahi. There we go. Edward is chiming in with our sentiment to John Lehman. Network Plus is good stuff. Doesn't get as much attention. Even though Mike loves it the most, he doesn't give it as much attention as it could, should, would. Very welcome, Falak.
Awesome. All right, so at 2:46, Teloit has a question.
Yeah.
Does a Raspberry Pi have a sound processing chip on board? I was wondering if one could set up a Pi and connect it to a USB turntable to record FLAC files of vinyl records.
Okay. Does it have a sound processing chip on board? Yes, it is for output only. There is no facility on the Pi in its native formats that supports analog mic in. And now there is some inputs that do digital mic in, and there's folks who are developing and have developed methods by which you can take digital input, but you don't want to do it in a raw fashion. For doing any kind of audio input, analog or digital, there are hats. I'll cover that in a second, designed specifically for the Pi. They're not expensive. They'll cost you about the same price as a Pi or a little less, somewhere in the 20, 30 bucks for a good one. For everybody, a hat.
And you're saying
there's
hat,
a lot of boxes out there. Yeah, exactly. So put my Tommy Panama Jack. There we go. Easy for me to say. All right. So there's a lot of single board computers and other single board devices that are designed to support expansion devices. This one, see if I can find some light there. Okay. So right here are 40 pins. This is called a 40 pin header. It's also called an expansion pin header. And it's kind of equivalent to a slot in a computer, a traditional Intel AMD type computer, with some difference though. It's designed a little bit more for experimenters. Well, folks out there make boxes that are designed to go on top of this. And there's two kinds of boxes. There are hats and there are boxes, and I'm calling them boxes. Circuit boards is more accurate. And non-hats. So a non-hat says, I'm a box and I can plug into here, and with the program that I provide, or with one that you download or one that you write yourself, you can control the thing on that box. So maybe it's blinking lights, and maybe it's speakers, and maybe it's a Bluetooth interface, fill in the blank. There's a billion trillion different sensors and inputs and output boxes. Hats are kind of like the same thing, except they have to follow a couple important rules. They have to be certain dimensions that are very close to the dimensions of the device they're designed to go on. They have to have an intelligent chip on there that communicates with the primary device here and says, here's my capabilities, here's the resources that I need, and the computer talks back to it. So there are audio hats, and what you are looking for, Teloit, is a DAC, a Raspberry Pi DAC. That's a digital to audio converter. And sometimes they call them, the Hi-Fi DAC is the one that I use right now. And that's got a number of inputs, the usual line inputs and mic inputs, and a bunch better outputs. There's a 5.1 output on it and things like that. But no, nothing native on the Pi itself. Are you guys shocked I just happened to have a Raspberry Pi sitting here in case a Raspberry Pi question came up?
Who would have thought it?
Yeah.
Not in my wildest dreams, Dave.
Greg Davis had to leave. Hope we didn't miss him. It's 2:48. It wasn't by much. We did.
Yep. Laura. Pepto-Bismol helps with the anxiety and nausea. Wow. Okay. So that's some.
I had a little dyslexia and I thought it was saying, hello, Pepto-Bismol. And I didn't recall seeing a name Pepto-Bismol anywhere in the list. Yeah, Pepto is great.
Yeah. Okay. So she says overstudied and second guessed herself. Right.
Good.
So yeah, taking a break, that's a fine idea. And reevaluate, study your notes before you take it a third time. And I think you have to wait 14 days after the second one.
After the second time, yeah.
Yeah.
Marvin Jesus, Marv. No, not 12,000 questions for A+. We have 1,200 questions in our A+ total tester bank.
And we
and
have
cross topics.
We have almost that many in Network Plus. and almost that many, even actually, I think a few more in our Security Plus test bank. So lots and lots of questions to pull from. Yeah, definitely worth getting if you can.
Yeah, it's not an expensive product. I mean, I wish you were here last week and the week before. We had 50% off all the Total Tester products. It's not what we've got today, but it'll be back again. Or if you're getting ready to go take the test now, spend a couple extra bucks. It's only 50% more. We think our question banks are the best in the industry, not just because we're selling them, but we really believe in them. We put a lot of time and effort and study into making questions that are topical. Many of them mimic the style and technique that CompTIA uses. We believe we got good stuff out there for you.
Absolutely.
This commercial brought to you by Total Seminars. Remember, by Total.
So at 2:49, Ratlop is here. Nice salute. Excellent. Took me a second to go.
Yeah, somebody introduced that here about 5 sessions ago, or 4 or 5 weeks ago.
Yep. So Marv, that's $1 million question right there. So at 2:50, Marv asks, what's the difference between the tests on Udemy or the tests from the sim, the question? Okay, hold on. Let me break it down for you. The Udemy questions for A+, Net+, Security Plus, whatever, those are a tiny subset of the total tester practice exam questions. So those, I can't even remember how many questions are on the Udemy ones.
Our test courses for the big 3 each have 3 90-question tests.
Okay, so 270 questions as opposed to 1,200 plus questions. So there's your difference right there. The simulations that we have for A+ and Network Plus, those are modeled after the performance-based questions that you will get on your A+, Net+, Security Plus exams. So we use them also as a supplementary teaching tool. So I cover more total sims in A+, for example, than you will. I mean, there are hundreds of total sims, and you're only going to get 5. So we use it as a way of teaching the material a little better. The simulations, the total sim simulations have 4 different components. They have shows, which are essentially a walkthrough of how to do a specific task in Windows, for example. Click, which has you go through and do those commands by clicking in the right spot, right-clicking when you need to, typing in some information as you need to, just like you would have to do if you were doing the thing on a live Windows machine. So yet another way of being able to explore a Windows 7 machine, for example, or a Windows 10 machine. The type simulations are cool. They are our resident developer genius, Michael Smyer, wrote a command line sandbox that looks, acts, quacks, walks, whatever, just like the command interface in Windows. So then there are a series of labs that you can do running these various commands. And the cool part is you can do everything like delete and format and stuff that you may or may not feel comfortable doing on your main system. So yeah, the type simulations are very cool. And then finally, we have challenge simulations. And the challenge simulations are, in a lot of ways, the closest things to the simulations that the performance-based questions that you'll get. These have you exploring various device interfaces, like a wireless access point, for example, and going through and configuring it, which you might see on one of the CompTIA exams or something similar. So the challenge things just have you do stuff. So very fun stuff.
And those are included in the bundles today, right? The A+ bundle and the Net+ Super Bundle.
Those are. We should let me post the special.
Yeah, I was thinking that.
Oops, What did I just do?
No, I did that. Sorry, it looked like my thing.
You scared me. You scared me.
Scared myself. There we go.
So just because you're here this week, we have deals, and these are deals that are only for you, people who are here at the AMA. So this week, the special coming from our salespeople is 50% off on all the A+ and Network Plus super bundles. That's the videos, the total tester practice tests, and the simulations. So that for A+ and Net Plus. And for Security Plus, our video and total tester bundle. So just use the code MMLive824 at checkout. And that's checkout at totalsim.com. And it's good through the 30th. So that's our special for the week. It's a good deal. That's hundreds and hundreds of dollars off.
Oh, yeah.
So, yeah, good stuff.
Tullowit, you're under arrest for the checks are in the mail pun. I'm sorry. Tullowit at 254, are there expansion cards for the Pi stackable? Yes, they are. It depends on the specific vendor, but most of them do have a female header connector on the bottom of it. And then the 40 pins are extended across the top, because there's all kinds of different pins that could be used and even reused by the same thing. There's a pin on there called the I2S pin. It can connect to multiple devices in a stack. So yes, they are stackable.
Very cool. Or as we say, take that, Windows.
Alice, it's not fire, it's tea. So when you ask a lot of questions about pies and you don't have one yet, cough up the $35. You're a tech weenie. You can work the rest without the additional funds.
All right.
256. Go ahead.
250. That's exactly what I was about to read.
You're at the same place.
Say, hey, Stephen R. Just virtual boxed Ubuntu, and I'm watching you guys on it because you too are a geek, and that's awesome. I love
it. I totally love it.
Thanks for your awesome information to help us get into IT search. You are most welcome. This is what we do, man. It's what we love.
Hey, apropos of nothing, I had a project. It took 10 days to solve. I had an old Raspberry Pi with an old version of Raspbian on it, and I was trying to do a YouTube stream with it. And as I dug deeper and deeper into it, and nothing worked. And finally, it was basically because of all outdatedness. So down road, if anybody's interested, I'll show you how to use a Raspberry Pi and the Raspberry Pi Foundation native camera to do your own YouTube live streaming. I've still got one more challenge to overcome, and that's getting the audio stream to get piped in with it. But the video stream is just looking cooler than all get out. And we did a bunch of experimenting with it last week.
And it was cool, although Dave looked like a lobster.
I didn't do the white balancing, so everything was blue except me. And I always look like a lobster. 258, John Lehman. Pies are pretty amazing SBCs, single boards computer.
Yep.
Like the Pi, I think they may take over desktop systems. 64-bit architecture is getting implemented. NVMe hard drive support, only a matter of time. Yeah, in fact, we can do NVMe externally. Of course, it's not true NVMe at that point because we're going through a USB interface. I have an mSATA semi-native interface that goes straight to the pins, not through USB, on one of my systems. That's very, very fast. It's not NVMe M2 super fast, but will they replace the desktop? You know, I'm not a futurist. I don't personally see it. I think it's a great augment, and it has some uses in certain circumstances, but I'm not getting rid of my gaming tower.
And that's, I guess that's the big takeaway for me. Every time somebody's like, oh, the world is going to laptops and miniature devices, and we're going away from all those big, ugly, loud computers. And I'm like, really? Buy these games out of my cold, dead fingers. No,
that's
because
right.
Until I can game on some tiny little machine and have the same kind of immersive experience that I have, I'm sticking with my desktop.
Right. When they get that, sorry, good.
That's why I'm so excited about virtual reality. The latest devices they're so close. They're so close to, once we get the nausea aspect of it solved, because that's the big thing. You can only play for a certain amount of time before it's just like, okay, I have to stop and come back to reality. But I'm taking a device this big, right, and immersing my face in it, and suddenly I'm on a giant screen with, I'm running through the jungle and doing all kinds of crazy stuff, and it's immersive and amazing. And the technology is just going to get even better. So at that point, once it gets there, I can see losing my big desktop, or at least my big monitors, and reclaiming my actual physical desktop.
Yep.
Right now you can't see it, but I have 3 giant monitors here, this bank of stuff that essentially take my entire space.
Yeah, I went over to your house to drop something off the other day, and we're all a little paranoid about spreading any kind of viri around here, but he's so paranoid that he said, leave it on the front sidewalk. I'll come out and get it in an hour.
You have to wait and let the little viruses die, man.
Yeah, I haven't seen your setup since you've gone 3 monitor at the house. One of these days when we're able to enter homes again, we'll do that.
I'll pan it for the next morning meeting.
3 o'clock, Brandon B. Dave Rush runs the Brave browser. So does Scott Jernigan. I knew he didn't trust those other browser types. I heard about it one day. I'm going to put it in around December of last year, maybe November. And I said, you know what? I really like the claims that this thing makes. And rather than dabble in it, I'm just going to abandon all my other browsers, install Brave, and go wholeheartedly on one machine and see if I like it. And after a month, I'll reevaluate. Should I put the old one back? And you can see what happened. I got Brave is my primary browser on every machine I've got right now, and I really like it. There was a hiccup about 6 weeks ago where they got caught with their hands in the cookie jar. They were pre-feeding, when you were typing information into the browser bar, they were filling in the rest to take you to some of their advertiser sites. They got called out on that, and they don't do that anymore. And frankly, it didn't bother me because I don't use the pre-fill, and I was typing my own. Okay, good. Marvin is thinking about a bundle. When's the Brandon? That's Alice's question at 3:01. When is Linux Plus course coming out? Look, you are preaching to the choir. Me, Scott, Michael, and all of the other tech weenies are champing at the bit to do a Linux Plus course. Mike wants to do a Linux Plus course. Mike is the president. You would think he could just hammer down, but there are 2 real big reasons that we ain't got a Linux course plus yet. First of all, we can't get to the studios to shoot anything. And second of all, Mike has a partner who's the money manager, and all the stars have to align between the money people and the tech people and so forth. So maybe, I think about this every now and again. It's just starting to write one on my own time after hours. And maybe if I do a chapter or 2 and present it to all the powerful people who make the yes/no decisions, I can convince them, but we'll see.
Yep.
Falak, and the next question, that code Live 824 works for anybody who knows it and uses it at checkout between now and August 30th. The trick is you're the only guys who know about it. We don't post this code anywhere but on these AMA forums. So unless you tell your friends and family, and you're welcome to do that, you guys are the exclusive recipients of this discount. But it would work for anybody.
So, and Falak also asks, is this US only? Because all 3 products are digital, there's no reason why they shouldn't work anywhere. The question is whether a credit card or it's the payment aspect that you would have to work out. Maybe, I don't know. I buy things overseas all the time. So
if you have trouble, shoot an email to Kathy Y.
Yeah, so it's Kathy, I'll type it in the chat.
All right.
You can talk while I'm typing.
I was reading.
Oh,
So Tuluit is saving money for food instead of a pie. Dude, a pie is food. You can live for 6 weeks without food as long as you have water.
and a pie.
Yeah, and you get somebody like me, I'm probably good for 8 or 10 weeks. Right, Brandon's right. But pie, sounds like you could eat it. Darn right you can.
So I put Kathy's email in the chat, Falak. So if you have questions on accessibility or availability, if that's the right word, accessibility, availability of our products where you're at, just send her an email and she'll work it out with you.
Elbows in, checking in, playing puns with Tuluit, and I'm seriously debating the offering that somebody posted about new motherboard smell and the taste of something that sent us off the rails.
Well, Elbow, you skipped over his post earlier. Where he said,
me.
"Hey, I'm just back from lunch.
Yeah,
Good to be back." And then that's when
got it.
the pie eating jokes came in.
That was 2 down for me. Okay. John Lehman, here's a good question then for people like Tuluit wanting to get their first pie. What Raspberry Pi would you recommend as a first purchase? It's all about dollars. So 3B is available right now for $25. It's got a gig of RAM and a quad core processor, but the operating system doesn't take advantage of that. Everything is the same. The cases are the same. The power supplies are mostly the same as far as price goes and all the other goodies. So for another $10, you can either get a 1 gig or a 2 gig Raspberry Pi 4. And that does everything that we're ever going to talk about in any of these classes, and that 99.75% of anybody does as a project. If you're looking for full scale product, like watching YouTube videos and things like that. If you want to save money because you have a specific use, a singular use for a cheap Pi, there's one, then you can get a Raspberry Pi Zero. They come in 3 flavors, with headers and without headers, with Wi-Fi and without Wi-Fi, and then combinations of those. And you can pick these things up on the high end for $13 or on the low end for $5.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah, so these are great for if you're going to embed these and use it as a water level sensor for your garden or for your farm. And they use these predominantly in kind of sensor installations. But if you're asking me what I recommend, and if you've got the $35 for the board plus all the common cost for all the usual accessories, the cases, the power supplies, and the SD card and so forth, the difference between the 3B and the 4B is $10. Spend the extra 10, get the current bestest one.
All right. Yeah, when you first started with the $25 one, I was like, "Are you sure?" Because they might not be able to run a Kodi server properly with that one.
In fact, that of course is what we did the Kodi server on Friday, and the Wireshark and the web servers, and they're all running at the same time. And we haven't maxed that thing out yet.
And that was on the 4, right?
No, I haven't used the 4 for any of the presentations that we've done. In
that was on the 3B.
One's been a 3.
Wow.
Yep.
Okay, I'm even more impressed now.
I'm reading.
Oh, my scroll just went crazy.
Oh God. All the food comments. Okay, at 3:07, AS. Hi, AS. Nice to see you. How many Pis serve as the Nextcloud server or? Okay, so I have a Nextcloud. I moved up from OwnCloud using, I've tried with both a 3B and a 4B, and I've run 15 people on it, and it doesn't even exhale heavily. I don't know how many people I can get on there. And of course, the secret here is really not how many people you get on at the same time. It'll support a lot. It's how much storage capacity do you have? So that is definitely a presentation that I want to do. We'll talk about those. See how much interest somebody, not somebody, if anybody's participating in these Pi things and you're interested in creating your own version of, yeah, I got it right here. What's Dropbox? The big third-party free source for that is OwnCloud. It came from Nextcloud, or maybe I'm backward on that. I haven't played with it in a couple of weeks. But man, it is just powerful and cool as all get out. And you don't get those limitations that you get from Dropbox, 250 megs max, or get a bunch of people to buy into it with referrals, and you can get a gigabyte or 2 gigs or whatever it is, or cough up your $100 a year for more. Host that yourself, and oh my gosh, you make it available to your friends, your family, your associates, your business associates, and or go really nuts. I think you'd have to be kind of nuts for this one, but you could even create that as a commercial offering. I wouldn't take that liability myself. Raspberry Pis are cool, but I would not rate them in the reliability scale as an HP or a Dell computer or a server.
Right. And
Edward, you overclocked your Pi 4. I've never felt the need, but cool.
Just because, because you can, Edward.
That's right. Norlam Khan, welcome, my friend. A new voice, a new face for me. Thank you. There's Alice. Linux.
Nice.
Yeah, we want it too. You're right, LB. We are going ahead of that 307. Good VR is not a cheap proposition, but everything gets cheaper as time goes by.
Yeah, I mean, right now, to get the latest Steam VR, the name is totally just escaping me. Somebody type that in. What's the latest VR rig from
Vive? But obviously there's newer stuff than that now.
No, it's post Vive. Valve Index. Thank you, Edward.
Okay.
The Valve Index, the system will set you back $1,000 plus. You need a pretty stout machine to make it work cleanly. So that's probably another $1,500 if you're building it up from scratch. So yeah, it's not cheap yet. But there's a lot of augmented reality devices out there that are much less expensive that enable you to use your tablet to play Pokemon Go.
I was waiting for this really day-to-day worky kind of thing.
Forget your work stuff, man. All kinds of great excuses for VR. Absolutely legitimate uses for them in business, in medicine, in science, whatever. I'm in it for the games. I've always been in it for the games. Although, to me, the killer app on VR is still Google Earth.
Mm-hmm.
That's just whenever I need to relax and I want to go someplace. I'm going to go to Italy and visit my favorite Italian, Alice. I just put on my little VR goggles, fire up Google Earth, and I'm soaring over Rome just like that. So
I saw a commercial offering that uses VR. They created a scripted Google Earth and Google Streets tour of anything you want. And they've got this big market where they are targeting people who haven't seen their home houses, villages, whatever, since they were children. They've long since moved away, maybe from another country, and haven't gone back. And that thing apparently is very, very popular as a service.
Nice.
Visit your great-great-grandparents' grave sites. Brandon, when is the Linux Plus book coming out then? We pretty much developed this stuff kind of hand in glove. Hey, there you go. McGraw-Hill's got one. It has the same cover as all of our books for some reason. But
so it must be written by Mike Meyers, right?
That's right. I think before I got hired, I saw all the McGraw-Hill books in some bookstore, and I said, oh my gosh, he's prolific. And then I came to understand, well, he is, but not that prolific.
Right. Yeah, so that Linux Plus all-in-one book I'm currently reading right now.
Okay.
Because,
nice.
Why read fiction when you could read certification manuals?
Andre de Goyard is picking on you at 310.
I'm working on them. I'm working on them, Andre. I promise I'm working on them. By the time you're ready for Security Plus, I'll have them. So there you go.
Okay, next one, 310 Falak. He says he tried to buy the practice test for Sec Plus. So the practice test standalone is not on discount right now. The Security Plus bundle that has the Sec Plus video and the Total Tester bundle, you buy those as a bundle product, and then you use the code MMLive824. That's today's date, right? 0824 in US format.
Right.
That's the way to do that. And if you're having trouble with that, again, send Kathy Y at totalsem.com an email. There you go. Scott's got it posted. And she can help you out. Elbow, it'll never take 6 weeks for a pie to come these days. They're well stocked. Yeah, it was close, Tulloway. We didn't use that, wasn't the phrase, but I'm glad you used that. Taste of Ram chips. Let's just keep it at that. Yes, Nextcloud server on a Pi. Absolutely.
Yeah, you answered that.
Yeah, I know. Further back.
All right, so
go ahead.
315, John Lehman asks, concerning digital certificates, can one intermediate certificate authority being down, expired, invalid, affect the validity of the digital certificate?
No, because your system has the ability to say, look, if I can't contact the intermediate, I'll contact the certificate authority directly.
Right.
The whole point of having intermediates is to avoid direct contact with CAs because they can be very busy or can be very slow or distant. But if you can't get to the intermediate, we'll go straight to the boss.
Telewit is now talking about eating paper.
I see that.
Telewit, do you need me to send you a care pack?
AS, didn't know what route to go for storage, NAS, or upgrade server for home use. Yes, there's a lot of options. I wouldn't use Nextcloud or OwnCloud if I was just creating some kind of storage repository. I do that if I'm talking about accessing my data when I'm remote. It's kind of cloud, semi-cloud based. If you're just talking about local external storage, a NAS is probably a better choice. And
right.
Yes, you can do a NAS on a Pi. Pi-hole, make sure you check in with, I think Brendan S. has been working on a Pi-hole. He's got a solution to his DNS problem. Okay, there was the valve index. Well, you jumped down there and came back pretty quick. Pi has an S, yeah. Can you cluster Pi for redundancy? Certainly. File system that has native redundancy built into it is available for the Pi, and whose name escapes me, but I'll come up with it. Yeah, but you can do it.
ext4?
No, ext4 is the default file system for current versions of Linux, but it doesn't have built-in redundancy. There is another file system that adds on to ext4 that allows you to basically create RAID arrays either across internally connected devices or common, or even externals. Very cool. Sorry, I'm leaning and looking funny as I do this.
Yeah, so in Transplant Health figure 3,000.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, the figure I dumped was 2,500, and that would be cutting a few corners, but yeah.
Yeah.
But that's the highest of the high end. So.
Yep. Andre has a comment here. I'm going to sidetrack because something has been bugging me lately, and it dovetails with his line. So Andre de Goyert at 318 says, in a couple of years, we might have holodecks for real. So we have a channel here in Houston. It's an over-the-air channel that starting at sometime in the evening plays in sequence all of the Star Treks, the original series and whatever the other three. And if I'm bored, I'll flip over to that, but I just need a little brain break. I have decided that almost nothing positive ever came out of a holodeck. They always fail. They create bad guys. They trap people. They are perhaps the worst invention in all of Star Trek and should be destroyed. Discuss.
Dave.
Also, Tuvok.
I just have 2 words. I just have 2 words. You're fired.
Please.
And now you're hired again because, you know, I can't afford to live.
Yeah, I know. You got to fill a hole.
Yeah. Man, I totally want the holodeck. Are you kidding?
I do too. If it worked, if it didn't kill people.
And of course, at 318 Tello, it says, I invented this new VR thing during the pandemic. The graphics are very lifelike. And it was really, I call it going outside.
Did you go to that with Al Gore? Oh, yeah, I went there.
Wow.
Yeah, he invented the internet. Seems only fair. Yeah. Okay. So everybody's throwing in on the VR thing. I have to tell them your story that you won't, Pat. So we finished up a shoot for, I think it was A+, might have been Sec+, but whatever it was, we bought a powerhouse of a computer to use for demonstrating and for shooting things. And along that way, they even purchased a pair of GTX 2080s, right? They were 80s?
1080s, but yeah.
Yeah. Oh, they were 1080s. Right, right, because the 2080s were the RTXs. So they bought a pair of 1080s. I'm second guessing that. I think it's 20s, but okay. And everybody says, what do we do with this? Well, usually after a shoot, everybody kind of piles in and gobbles up the equipment that we used for the shoot and probably aren't going to use again. We'll get newer, better stuff for the next one. And there sat this powerhouse of a machine with RAM gushering out like an exploding volcano and video power and a CPU that could run NASA by itself. And so what happens? Scott and Mike put their heads together. We need a really good VR headset. Someday we're going to do a good VR video. And in the meantime, we have this room that has nothing in it, no tables, no nothing. And they set up the VR room. And whenever somebody needs a break, back when we still got to go to the office, they'd go in and just throw on the headsets and power up this monster and fly like Superman and play some of the new games. I got an email from Green Mountain Gaming today with their VR title sale. And there's a lot more VR titles than there have been in the past.
Yes, yes. It's definitely, I'm still waiting for that game, that killer app that's going to be the one that takes us there. And I think with the Valve Index and maybe the title that comes with it. What's her name? Why am I blanking on people's names?
Yeah.
The female character from Half-Life 2. She has her own VR game out right now.
Oh.
It stars her. Somebody will post that for me. Alex, thank you. Edward, he is on top of things.
Yeah.
Man, you get Security Plus, and suddenly you've got all the answers. Thank you very much.
Nice.
That is, I haven't played it yet because right when I was about to start sweet talking Dudley into getting me the Valve Index, because you know we have to know how these systems work, right?
That's right.
Then we get locked down and kicked out of our offices, and so here we go. I don't have a Valve Index yet.
But I've got some bad news. I'm sorry.
That's good.
Yeah, we will. As soon as the Valve Super Index comes out, we can get the index.
That's right.
323. Andre's got some bad news. He is about to be less employed on October 11th. I hope that October 1st. I hope that changes for you, Andre, but as long as your internet bills are paid, we'll still be here for you and helping in any way we can. But I'm very sorry to hear about your potential loss.
And right after he says he's has more time to study and have job interviews. So there you go. Look on the bright side of life, right?
Right. 324. You can do this and be dyslexic. dyslexic. Local storage, and probably as cloud storage, if Pi allows, it would enable less on-device storage needs. Sure. Yeah, you know, it's like any other computer. There's a million different ways of accomplishing a goal like that. That's right, transplant. Discuss. Talk amongst yourselves.
Right?
325, elbow. Dave, you should totally make your text ringtone the sound of the little communications make when they open them. Yeah, the quick, quick, quick. I have spent way too many years around jet engines and turboprops, and I don't hear very well. I need a long, loud ringtone. And I'm fat, so I don't feel it vibrate.
People, I love it. The giving us excuses for how we can sweet talk Dudley into buying the new VR. I like it. Elbow, Trek talk time. I'm out of here. And see, John, look, Dave, John Lehman is right there. 326.
Yep.
About the Voyager-esque medical holographic program.
Right. Look, he's almost as deadly. And if you're going to go Voyager, Tuvok needs to be dropped out of an airlock. Helpful guy, but when he goes bad, he's killed people. He's turned into a child. He's just, and every week, a week later, he's fine. But when he's not fine, everybody's in danger.
Oh, man.
Yeah, I like transplant. I envision that. He sees VR someday as contact lenses. I don't think that that's an impossibility.
Nope, definitely not. So 327, Mike Stover says, Mike Meyers, I just wanted to say that you are incredible. You are an awesome instructor. You make tech fun. That's awesome, Mike. Welcome. Mike is on vacation right now. So when he doesn't have internet connectivity, he asks us to fill in for him, which is what Dave and I are doing today. He is at the Bonneville Flats in Utah, in the middle of barren flat desert, and no connection anywhere. So enough to, there must be a cell tower there, because he was able to send me a picture of him standing there in the midst of nowhere. But yeah, but hopefully he'll be on Thursday, and if not, then he should be back next week, and we'll be in good shape.
He'll be tan and trim. John Lehman, he posted before that, but I love this. What is the nature of your CompTIA emergency? It's a great holodeck.
Right.
I feel a little rewording with an audio deep fake. See if we can get Robert Picardo's voice to do that.
I like it.
Military is no joke, working on some holographic systems for visualizing. Absolutely.
One of my best friends from college, from grad school, was president of Picard's
fan club.
It's international fan club.
Wow.
A lot of years. So we could try. Apparently he's a real softie.
I'm totally behind it.
Awesome. Elbow, the military is no joke, working on some holographic systems for visualizing a battlefield. Yep. That would be cool.
Hey, I don't know if you've seen this. Maybe I've even mentioned in the past, but someplace else. But one of the coolest, it's not VR, but it's just freaking cool out there. SpaceX, go to their website. They have a SpaceX docking simulator. Before the first time that they took astronauts up, they posted this thing, I don't know, a week or two prior to that. And you're going to wreck it the first time. And it's a thing that takes a lot of patience. You're only a couple hundred meters away from the ISS and driving this docking simulator, and there's not a lot of documentation, so you got a lot of figuring out to do. But you know, if you're into anything like that, I lost a couple of nights sleep because I can't do it during the daytime. Scott cracked his whip. Hey, we have a question. 329, Mike Stover. What's the best path in certification A+ to PenTester? If you go and Google CompTIA roadmap, they used to have this big, really uber complicated PDF of a list of careers on one side and a list of all the ideal in their mind recommended certifications that you should achieve, and in that particular order. And they've reworked that now to 4 general career paths, including one that it has a penetration tester. I don't have it memorized. And of course, we're all going to recommend you start out the usual way: A+, Net+, Sec+, CYSA+, ethical hacker, something like that. But best answer that I know of is to just Google CompTIA career roadmap, and you'll find their 4 paths.
Yep.
Microsoft also has a good set of roadmaps like that for their certifications. Did I just pump Microsoft? Sorry about that.
Nothing wrong with Microsoft, man.
Yeah.
They play all my games. Therefore,
Right.
they're good.
Yeah, they're in big news today, jumping after Apple for the Fortnite thing. They won the lawsuit against Apple for Apple pulling it.
I heard that news reports this morning.
Yeah.
Jumping in. Not just Apple, but Google too.
Yeah. Elbow at 3:30. I need it for play test. I mean recording. Okay. Yeah. Right. That's the way we would do it. That's the excuses you were talking about. I see.
Yeah, I actually have started to envision doing a VR set of lectures, lessons, courses, videos. I think it'd be really cool. And I'm going to push for it when we get back into the studio.
Yeah, that's one of those places where the word epic truly applies.
Yeah.
Man, that would be epic. Okay, so a lot of people kind of advising each other without giving names, but there's a lot of programming and related crosstalk. And Mike says, what's the best path for learning programming from basic to advanced? Not my area of expertise. I don't have a good answer for that.
My when I have expressed an interest in learning programming, programmers who use all kinds of different languages and have been in the field for a long time universally gave me the same answer: start with Python. So what you can get, Coursera is a teaching company out of Stanford University, and they have plenty of for-profit courses, but they also offer a lot of their courses for free, and some of those are on Python programming. You can also every once in a while catch the Udemy sales. There are dozens of Python courses on there. And the beauty of the Udemy sales is you can get the course for cheap, and you can get it for at least the lifetime of Udemy itself. So definitely, I would start with Python as your basic thing.
And then I think probably like anything else, like Mike would say, what do you want to do? What do you want to code? What kind of stuff? And start looking into the end game to come up with a path. There's probably no single generic path that says, I want to be a coder, take this and this and this and this and this. I want to code automation. Well, then you're going to take Python. Everybody should start with Python. And then maybe you're going to look at C++ for automation or industry or something like that. So depends where you're going.
And of course, I should have just read right below that.
Yeah.
AS is saying the same thing.
Right.
Python.
Yeah, it's not a path, but it's a start.
Yep.
And I suppose probably it's an end for some folks. I mean, if you're going to web code, Python, maybe some JavaScript, CSS.
So yeah, and Ender's Game, we'll see. There are lots of 3D games that have come out. I played Fallout 4 in 3D, and that was just like nausea-inducing. Looked gorgeous, but just so hard to play with the VR stuff. But that was on yesterday's HTC Vive Pro. I mean, come on, yesterday. So who knows what it'll be.
I did the follow-up. I didn't want to mention, or I forgot to mention this for everybody. Brendan or Brandon or somebody pointed out Distro Watch. So I checked that out at some point when Scott was answering a question. It's a fairly cool site. It is a site that documents news and updates and information about lots and lots and lots of Linux distros. So that's a neat site. I'll be looking at it a little bit further over time. Brendan celebrates the 25th anniversary of Win95 today.
That's pretty shocking.
Yeah, I guess that makes sense. It's 2020.
Yep.
Andrews, thanks.
Even Linux for gaming. I'll believe when I see it.
Follow it. Friends are overrated.
Because
Linux is coming for gaming. Yeah, so we started experimenting long before, God, I've been around for 10 or 11 years now at Total Seminars. Gaming on Linux in the last 10 years has been interesting, but disappointing. It just is not what is available for Windows-based systems at this time. But you're right. It's becoming more popular and there'll be more development. Oh, Alice, you know, 326 or 336. When we eventually go back to the office, will you dump us? It is Mike's commitment that as long as you're interested and have questions, that he continues this. Now, who knows? Anything can happen, anything can change, but we have no intention of saying, woohoo, back to work. Bye-bye, everybody. It's been fun. Definitely not. If he lets me, I'll come do this. I love this stuff. I know he does. He eats this up, so I don't see it ending.
Edward Fogle. I wonder if is it Fogle or Foul?
I'm going with Foul. He can
Foul.
correct us.
Maybe he'll tell us.
Yeah.
VR training, I'd buy that for $1. That's the big fear. See, I have been able to, over the years, come up with amazing ways to spend my boss's money. I can come up with the most creative video ideas and, oh my gosh. Yeah. And I get some good ones too, especially when Dudley's not looking and I just do it. But then he sees the cost and now.
What did you do? Can that be returned?
No, it's the man hours, the cost in people.
Same thing. That's the joke. Can you return those man hours? Mike Stover loves Udemy. So do I. And not everybody knows this, but most every people know here. If you take any of our Udemy courses and you post on the Q&A forums and you see a response from TA, you know who you're talking to now. I don't give nearly as long answers on there as I do on here. I wonder how many Raspberry Pis it would take to build me some Iron Man armor. I don't have that answer, but you can host a Minecraft server on there and make some pretty good armor in that. Well, there's an interesting thing too. I hadn't thought about that, at least today. Transplant Health reminds us that for coding, learning to code apps in either Android or I'll add iOS is a nice end game. Happy to help, Mike Stover. Checked out SpaceX Sim thing. Yeah, it is addictive to me too, Andre. Man. Old programming languages are not obsolete by any mention. No, yeah, so we've talked a little bit about that. There, people every now and again will bring up COBOL and Fortran, and there is certainly a niche market for those operating systems, for those programming languages that work on old heavy tin. But sooner or later, everything gets replaced.
So yeah, there's definitely a Linux gaming distro because I just installed it.
As in while we were sitting here, or something recent?
I blew away my Ubuntu box, and come on. And when I had to rebuild, I was like, well, what, Ubuntu, I've been there, I've done that. I want to try something else. So I installed, if I can remember what it was called, that would be great. I would log into it, but it's connected to the same video card or the same video that my laptop and this whole stream is connected to. So I don't want to do that.
That would be a bad thing.
That would be
Checking
bad.
here. I know we're staring with dead air, but there's only 9 best Linux gaming distros.
Starts with a P.
It's FOSS. Oh, that's from the It's FOSS website. Number 1 best, Steam.
Of course.
Yeah. Batacera Linux.
It starts with a P, like PAX or something like that.
Okay. Game Drift. Laka. OpenELEC. Fedora Games. That's interesting. Ubuntu Game Pack. M-Game.
Nope.
Yeah, I don't see yours. Manjaro. Sparky Linux. Game Over Edition. That's weird. All right, I'm not going to read all that. But yeah, like the man said, there goes the rest of my sleep while I go start playing in a new arena.
So Mike, you came in, Mike Stover at 344, came in wondering, of course, he came in to see Mike, obviously, and wondered about us. We gave our bios at the beginning. Dave and I have both been teaching in IT and doing IT for decades. I am a contributor and I'm editor-in-chief of the Total Seminars and contributor or writer and editor of all of our publications. So all 10 editions of A+ and 7 editions of Net Plus and or 8 editions and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I'm an author in my own right. I do currently have just one video series live right now, and that's the IT Fundamentals Plus. So that's kind of my.
It's a dedicated series, but you have videos out there that are part of other classes that you've written.
Absolutely.
Like the ones on Ed2Go.
Right. Yeah.
Which
So
are our most fun ones.
Those are the ones where I broke the bank. Yeah. So
going back a little bit in time, 2 things. 342, Edward Falble confirmed our pronunciation is Falble.
Okay.
And 343, oh, he's talking to AS, never mind. This is a possible developers. No, I'm not doing that. Okay, so we're caught up. There we go. Andre de Goyard has just listed all the ones from the same site that I found, I think. Because they all seem to be in about the same order, the ones I found. We have hit the end of questions on my list. Yeah, Scott, I came across your fundamental. Oh, I came across your fundamentals. It was great. Good. I'm going to assume you found that on. Do we have that on Udemy?
It's on Udemy. Yes.
Yeah, it is on Udemy. Yeah, I get.
That's also in. I believe it's also in LinkedIn Learning as well. So the old Linda.
That makes sense.
So
Linda.
Well, that became LinkedIn Learning.
Oh, I didn't realize that. I still see. Oh, that's right. I did realize that. I know. Okay, I recognize that. Oh man, Brendan, love you, buddy. One of my favorite books almost in the whole world. And no, we would take 25 hours here, so I'm going to do a speed version of it here. Mike has done a presentation. I've got that in that index. I can look that up sometime and post it next time we're up, where he did a full OSI model presentation. But let me give you the short, what is it? It's 48. I'll give you about a 4-minute version or so. So a billion years ago, when there were only mainframe manufacturers, IBM, Burroughs, Honeywell, DEC, Digital Equipment Corporation, they were all developing computers that were either standalone big mainframe boxes, big iron, or they were finding ways to interconnect their boxes with themselves. A DEC computer could connect to another DEC computer and so forth. And so this standards body, the ISO, International Standards Organization body, said, you know, we're seeing people develop adapters, converters, boxes that will let this manufacturer's computer talk with that manufacturer's computer. And they said, we're going to do a study of this and we're going to get everybody involved and identify what the steps of networking are. We're going to organize them. We're going to categorize them. And we're going to create some standards of those kind of organizational techniques that would allow one manufacturer to build a module that fit what we now later know, one of the layers of the OSI model, and it should be able to fit under anybody else's next layer or over anybody else's next layer. And they call that the OSI model, the Open Systems Interconnect model. ISO makes OSI. And so the 7 steps that they came up with, they said, first of all, we think there's a set of physical connection techniques. There's the electromechanical characteristics of what it takes to wire these things together. Copper cables, how long can the copper cable be? What are the voltages on it? What does the pulse look like? How fast does the pulse get sent? And what are the spaces between the pulses? And what do the connectors look like? And so they said, that's our first layer. That's layer 1. And then they said, okay, now we've got to make bits and bytes and get them onto layer 1. And they have to be organized in some fashion that they can identify one computer from another computer and so forth. And so they said, we're going to call that layer 2. And layer 2's got a couple different layers, because later they looked at it and said, layer 2 is actually 2 all encompassing. There's a couple that's broken up into sublayers. So they called it the MAC and the LLC, Media Access Control. That governs when a network interface card is allowed to transmit, when it's not, when it's allowed to receive, and so forth. And it provided some of the addressing. As networking got more sophisticated, they said, physical addresses, there's not enough address space back in those days. In fact, there was only 256 possible addresses in the very first iteration of this. Huge numbers back in those days, right? Well, rather than update those, they did eventually, they said, let's come up with some logical addressing. And they called that the network layer. They added some more sophistication to it, but when you get down to layer 3, the network layer is just network addressing. Up at the next layer, transport layer, layer 4, if we're going bottom to top. In the beginning, when they developed this, they said, all we got to do is identify the process where this thing is coming from and where it's going to. And so there was a product built into there, a protocol that did that. But they discovered that since they were starting to do this over phone lines that weren't very reliable, some of the data wasn't making it. So they had to build in routines to identify whether or not data was making it, and if it didn't, how they were going to deal with that. So that also got included into layer 4, and an upper program has a choice. I'll either use the unreliable mechanism, today we call that UDP, or the reliable mechanism, TCP. The next 3 layers were theoretical, then they were never commercially implemented. Session, presentation, and application. Session was a negotiation process between 2 hosts that says, what can you do? How much data can you take? What protocols do you support? And so forth. And they would negotiate that. Presentation manipulates how data looks or is formatted. If we're going to do encryption, anything that calls for a modification of the content of data. And then the application was the network program or network access program. But again, they were never really commercially implemented. They were done in labs. So today when we invent applications or develop them, application, presentation, and session are all included together in one conglomerate protocol. Now, give me 3 days and I'll give you a much better, clearer, easier to understand from soup to nuts. But there's the short version, if I could call that short.
Very nice.
You probably read 3 or 4 good questions while I did that.
I did. Andre de Guyert says, when troubleshooting in A+, it sometimes says, look at this, edit that, but it does not show how. Is this information, I assume, in other courses?
It's one of those ones I think you need to be a little bit more specific. That's too jump for me to have an answer.
So when we teach the troubleshooting model in A+ or Network Plus, we're teaching the CompTIA troubleshooting model so that you'll get it right on the exam. we don't necessarily follow that model when we are doing our own troubleshooting to the letter that they do. They break it down into a series of steps that once you get to a certain level of knowledge, I'm making when I look at something, a problem, I'm saying, well, what could it be, right? That's the simple question that could cause this, whatever behavior the computer is experiencing. And then I look at what's the most probable thing, right? And then, but don't forget the potential things, right? So I don't want to zero in on, it's got to be this, because that's what makes a poor tech, not a good tech. And then I go straight into checking my solutions, right? Into testing. The CompTIA model has techs do a whole bunch more steps to get through everything with proper documentation and all of that. And so it's a little bit more wordy, I guess, than how you would approach it in the field. So
yeah, it's called formal. It's a little more formal.
Formal, wordy. So our troubleshooting exercises in the books are more designed for real world. So,
but we do teach the model that you need to know, and
absolutely.
So you get the real world and you get the CompTIA formal thing. I'm skipping over a few because we only got 4 minutes left and we're very close to the bottom here. So John Dorival at 353, I'm stuck on securing TCP/IP for the Total SIMS Net Plus number 4 encryption. It has to do with selecting every OSI where encryption occurs. Needs 4 answers. Okay, so this comes up very commonly, and what I want you to do, we have a lady who has the answers for these and the explanations, and there is on the Total SIMS site a contact for support. Send this same message, just copy paste this thing. We went over this and reworked that particular question. I don't know if the new rework has been posted yet, but send support a message and you will get a response from the lady who manages that, and she will give you some help with you, some direction, or flat out the answer.
Brendan and Alice both loved your OSI explanation.
Fools. Sorry, it's the best I could do in 4 minutes. My pleasure, Brendan. Pi Day is perfect nerd fest for me. Good, I'm glad. Yeah, tell your friends. And yeah, Scott and I are doing it together this Friday. So
yeah, Mike specifically, raspberrypi.org.
Yes,
raspberrypi.org is the website for the Raspberry Pi. And on Fridays, Dave and I do Friday Pi Day, which is from 2 to 4 p.m. Central Daylight Savings Time. And we talk about not just the Pi, but also the Linux operating system that's running the Pi, so that this is part of the training that you need for A+ and Network Plus. You need some practical hands-on Linux. And so why not also have a functioning, really cool little gadget machine? And I didn't really just call that a gadget.
It's a fully gadget in it. It's okay.
System on a chip, beautiful system.
Single board computer, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, it's really cool. And you get a lot of starting information and education over at raspberrypi.org, and then you'll find a lot more on the web. So I was ready to start the big almost goodbye, but David Zenteris has posted, all people seem to need data processing. So fasten your seatbelts. Here comes the best ones that you'll ever run across. Please do not throw sausage pizza away. People don't need to see Paula Abdul, or if you're older, Paul Anka. And the best one that you'll never, ever forget, poor Dave needs to seek psychoanalysis. One of my students invented that. I don't know why. Hey, well, we're going to finish on time. You don't have to pull out the big sword, I think.
You're right.
I'm going to say thanks to everybody. Thanks to Mike. Thank you. Ian wasn't here, and I missed him last week, but so But thank you to all the behind the scenes people. Ian Camacho, one of our folks, Michael Smyer, of course, running the behind the scenes tech side, Scott, and most importantly, all of you. So thanks for coming. We'll do this again on Wednesday with somebody.
That's right. So until then, this is Dave and Scott saying farewell.
Goodbye.